They searched behind stalls and under counters, but didn't find a phone, a person, or anything helpful. Patrick stopped at the mouth of a dark laneway sided by high brick walls. "I think this is where I got the charm," he said, and walked down it. Neither Rose nor Andrew wanted to follow, but they didn't want to split up either. As the trio moved down the lane, they saw the keyhole-shaped wagon at the far end, and then they saw the cats. A whole herd of cats. Cats playing around and under the wagon. Cats hooked into tiny harnesses like horses hitched to a stagecoach. The harnesses were cat-sized, but the wooden wagon was bigger and heavier than any stagecoach. The cats turned to look at the approaching children, their eyes aglow with reflections of the fairground lights. It made Andrew think of a nature program he'd seen with lions watching an antelope unknowingly walk into their midst. Their eyes glowed with anticipation. He slowed. "There's no payphone here," he said. "Let's go back." "There might be one inside we could use," Rose said. Andrew pushed her forward. "Knock on the door, then, if you're so eager," he said. It had become so quiet that when Rose placed her foot on the first step, creak, the three friends froze. A mangy tabby with a mangled ear appeared from beneath the wagon and emitted a mighty meow. "Come in," called a voice from inside, as if Rose had already knocked. Rose backed off the step, almost stepping on the tabby, which fled back under the wagon, traces jingling. "It's the woman who sold me the charm," Patrick said, recognizing her voice. He climbed 3 stairs, opened the door, and stepped inside. The others reluctantly followed. The wagon springs dipped under their weight, swaying everything as they ventured inside, to an incredible mess of clutter. Pillars of paper and bales of books stood everywhere. A lantern swung from a hook in the ceiling, tossing yellow splotches and black shadows as the wagon wobbled with their shifting weight. Shallow cupboards nailed to the wall slats were revealed in the swinging light to hold boxes and bottles and an apothecary assortment of shapes and colors. 3 stacks of books towered shoulder height in front of the children. Each volume lay open flat to a particular page. The stack quivered with a dip of the wagon springs. "You're late," said a voice from the far end, where light rarely splashed. The woman sat in a massive armchair, which was so deep it surrounded her. "Close the door," she ordered. Obediently, Patrick turned and shut it. "Late?" Andrew asked. "It's already dark," the woman said, and lifted the glass of the lantern to light it. Patrick was sure she had been empty-handed when he first saw her. She hadn't moved, yet had hold of a lantern which she was lighting with a match that was already aflame. Patrick didn't say anything. He wasn't sure if he could believe his eyes. "Do you have a phone we could use, please?" Andrew asked. The woman let the lantern glass down and held it out to Patrick, pointing to a hook above his head. He dutifully hung it there. "That's better, isn't it?" she said as her end of the room lit up, revealing that she and her armchair were dressed in identical floral prints. "A phone?" Rose repeated. The woman was intent on a book Rose had noticed on the stack beside Andrew when they came in. It was open to a drawing of a man in a kilt. Rose rechecked the stack, but the book was now in the woman's lap. Rose didn't say anything. If the others hadn't seen it, they wouldn't believe her. "No phone," the woman answered. "No need." "Sorry to have bothered you," Andrew said, and turned to the door. "You can't go yet, Andrew." Hearing his name stopped Andrew cold. "Rose," the woman continued, "and Patrick, come closer. There's very little time." The friends took a single, hesitant half-step forward. The woman held the page of the book up to show Andrew. "How about that?" she asked. Andrew ignored the book. "Who are you?" "Pomona," the woman answered. She turned the book to Rose. "What do you think?" she asked. But in place of the man in the kilt, Rose saw a page showing a medieval lady of the court wearing a peach-colored dress and matching conical hat, with a short ribbon attached to its peak. Pomona tapped her tooth with a fingernail, musing out loud. "Patrick is going to be a problem, but there's nothing for it." "What are you talking about?" Patrick asked. "Your costumes for the Samhain," Pomona said. Andrew felt like he did when Mr. Buckley perched on his desk and asked the class one of his special questions. He grabbed Patrick's arm. "Let's just go." The 3 started for the door. "That'll mean stretching the leprechaun clothes," Pomona muttered, closing one eye to think. "Maybe 12 sizes, or—" Patrick stopped and turned, intrigued by her words. "Leprechaun?" Andrew turned with him. Rose reached the door without them and looked back to urge them on. "We've got to get home." "It is an honor to be invited," Pomona said. "It would be an insult not to go." "We'll be late for trick-or-treating," Rose said. Pomona's voice went up several notches. Trick or treating? You want to go trick or treating instead of the Samhagen? That's like... But Pomona didn't finish, as if expecting the concept to be understood. After a long silence, Patrick asked, Leprechaun clothes? You must go in costume. You can't go looking like that. Pomona pointed at his street clothes. It wouldn't do. No, they won't do at all. She clucked her tongue and shook her head. We've already got our costumes, Rose told her. Pomona held the book's illustration out, like this. Rose shook her head. No, I'm going as Roberta Bondar. I'm sure Lady Bondar's clothes aren't like these, Pomona tapped the page. I don't think the others would understand. Others? The other guests. They're rather old-fashioned, Pomona said, and turned the book to Andrew. I thought you would appreciate it. He was confused. Not only was this woman not making sense, but his eyes kept playing tricks on him. He'd been looking at the book with the drawing of the medieval lady while she spoke to Rose, but now the book she held was the man in the kilt again, yet she hadn't so much as turned a page. Then he looked closer. Dad wanted me to wear one of those things. It's wool, it scratches, he declared, reminded of last night's argument. Rose, Patrick asked, didn't you say your mother made you a hat like that? Rose nodded. Mother's little joke. It was all black. My mom wanted me to go as a leprechaun, Patrick said. I told her I was going as a ghost. A ghost, Pomona said, interested. How do you go as a ghost? Covered in a white sheet, usually, Rose snarked. What makes you think that's how to go as a ghost? Pomona asked. Her question let loose a cluster of butterflies in Andrew's stomach. Rose's butterflies had barbed wire wingtips. Let's go, she said. Good idea, Pomona agreed. She bit into an apple that appeared in her hand and said chowder while she chewed. The wagon began to roll.